Mabuhay at magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Dr. Bong Buenaventura. I am deeply honored to have been invited again to be a speaker in the Center's Foundation anniversary. Thanks to Dr. Fanjalan and Dr. Dimla for the invitation and for this great topic. I am tasked to focus on the mind or mental aspect. Before I proceed, I would like to give a shout out to the Department of Psychiatry and also to the Department of Medical Humanities. I'd also like to give a shout out to my classmates in medicine batch 1986 as we celebrate our choral jubilee this year. My objectives for this lecture are simple, primarily because this is a very complex topic, and I will primarily provide an overview as there are really so many things we can do to achieve mental wellness. Thus, I will start with a brief background, including some focus on mental health in the workplace, since this lecture is part of the celebration of the Foundation anniversary where we all work. I will then proceed with general advice, and additional information can be gleaned online. I plan to end with a short autogenic session, which I will explain a bit more later in the lecture. So let's start. So in this slide, which one are you? Are you the one who is disappointed in life, feeling stressed out, not having fun, feeling worn out? Or the one who is happy and contented, feeling excited, always on the go, able to chill and unwind? It has often been said that this situation is a matter of choice, so therefore, let us look at ways by which an individual can be in a more positive frame of mind. It is worthwhile to consider that the United Nations Development Program has listed good health and well-being as its number 3 sustainable development goal for this decade. At this point, I'd like to operationalize a couple of terms. While these terms are often used interchangeably, they do not appear to have exactly the same meaning. Well-being focuses on how we perceive overall ourselves and our life in a positive manner, while wellness is mainly the practice of healthy habits that contribute to our well-being. But for the purpose of this lecture, we'll be using them interchangeably with some unique nuances. We will be using the term wellness mostly because it is, after all, the title of this program. So when we talk about wellness, we need to remember that it's a very broad and complex concept. It encompasses various aspects of our lives that are often interdependent with each other. This is why it is critical to consider other aspects in the matter of our health, not just one. For my part, I will be focusing on the mental aspects, which by itself is also a complex concept. Our mental health can affect many different areas of our lives, such as work, school, or home life, relationship with others, vegetative functions such as sleep, appetite, energy levels, cognitive functions such as our ability to think clearly or make decisions, even our physical health, then our life satisfaction, and more. Let me emphasize that our mental health is just as important to our lives as our physical health. Allow me also to remind you that mental health is not simply the absence of a mental illness. As I've mentioned earlier, mental health includes emotional, psychological, social, and cognitive well-being. Mental health can influence how we feel about ourselves, the world, and our life, our ability to solve problems and overcome challenges, ability to build relationships with others and contribute to our communities, and our ability to achieve our goals. Many people take care of their physical health before they feel sick. They may eat well, exercise, and try to get enough sleep to help maintain wellness. However, we also should take the same approach to our mental health. Just as you may work to keep your body healthy, you can also work to keep your mind healthy. There are 4 basic dimensions of mental health and wellness. These are the main areas in which our mental health become manifest, and they include thoughts, body reactions, emotions, and behaviors. I'd like to emphasize that mental health is determined by the overall patterns of these basic dimensions. The way we think about something has a big impact on our mental health. Changes in our thoughts often go along with changes in our mental health. When we feel well, it is easier to see life in a more balanced and constructive way. When we aren't well, it's easy to get stuck on negative things and ignore positive things. Examples of helpful thoughts include: I know I can cope and get through these rough times. There are things in my life that I feel excited about. I have some really cool talents and interests. I feel grateful for the good things in my life. Examples of negative thoughts include: it feels like something really bad is going to happen. Nothing good ever seems to happen to me. I'm never going to get through this. My flaws are too big to overcome. The next is body reactions. Body reactions are changes in our body functions such as heart rate, breathing, digestion, etc. Changes in our body reactions often go along with changes in our mental health. Examples of body reactions include muscle tension, muscle aches or headaches, upset stomach or nausea, lack of appetite, chest pain, or difficulty in breathing. Next would be emotions. A big part of emotions is, of course, the way we feel. Emotions can be pleasant, unpleasant, or blended, just such as when we have two emotions at the same time, what we technically refer to in psychology and psychiatry as ambivalence. Changes in emotions often accompany changes in mental health. Examples include happiness or joy, feeling love or affection, anxiety or fear, sadness or feeling down. Finally, behaviors. Behaviors are the way we act and respond to our environment. Some behaviors are helpful and some can be harmful. Again, changes in behavior often go along with changes in mental health. Examples of helpful behaviors include working on a solution to a problem one step at a time, reaching out to a friend or family member for support and understanding, practicing our spiritual activities, doing something relaxing like yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, exercising or engaging in hobbies or leisure activities. Examples of harmful behaviors include isolating ourselves and pulling away from family and friends, using alcohol or drugs to make bad feelings go away, overeating or not eating enough, lashing out at other people, whether verbally or physically, and excessively depending on loved ones or clinging to loved ones. So the question that comes to mind then is, how do we achieve mental wellness? Before we come to that, let us talk a little bit about a very important matter: stress. So what is stress? Stress is a life event or situation, internal or external, acute or chronic, which challenges the organism and to which the organism responds. Generally, it is anything that disturbs the organism's equilibrium or homeostasis. There are two types. The first one is positive stress or eustress, and the more common type of stress we are familiar with is negative stress or distress. It is important to be aware of one's stresses and emotions and stressors because part of mental wellness being able to cope with stress. A study in the workplace by the Epidemiology Center showed that 32% of government employees in 20 agencies in Metro Manila reported experiencing mental health problems at least once in their lifetime. The three most common diagnoses were specific phobias, alcohol abuse, and depression. A study done at the Ateneo Bulatao Center for Psychological Services showed the top mental health issues in the workplace among selected private companies had job burnout ranking the highest. In the same study presented at an Occupational Health and Safety Congress, we can see that there are various sources of stress that affect the individual. This was, of course, pre-pandemic, which is why we can see that traffic and commuting rank very highly. What I would like to emphasize here is that it is very important to consider all significant aspects of an individual's life when assessing their wellness or well-being. We have mentioned that it is normal to be confronted with stresses because they are part of our everyday lives. But how do we know when it is beyond normal already? In terms of my clinical practice, I would be guided by looking at three areas of our overall functioning, which include personal functioning as it relates to self care, social functioning as it relates to interpersonal relationships, and occupational functioning as it relates to work or school performance. I would also consider the extent and severity of the manifestations. Let us look at some examples. Personal functioning would include poor appetite, poor hygiene, insomnia, loss of interest or pleasure in usual activities. Social functioning includes becoming isolated or withdrawn, refusing to interact or communicate with others, including close family and friends. Occupational functioning involves inability to concentrate at work or in school, unable to meet obligations and expectations. Then finally, extent and severity of manifestations can include presence of additional symptoms such as anger and agitation with a duration extending beyond weeks or even months. So how do we cope with stress? Knowing this will essentially lead us to achieving mental wellness. Let us look first at what can be done in the workplace. Based on what is being practiced in Canada right now, these are top 8 practices that can be done to help the individual. Number one is to support employee participation in decision making. Number two, define the employee's duties and responsibilities. Number three, to promote a life work balance. So, life work rather than work life. Okay. Number four, encourage respectful behaviors. Number five, manage workloads. Number six, provide training and learning opportunities. Number seven, have conflict resolution practices in place. And finally, at number eight, recognize employees' contributions effectively. Having these in place can minimize job stress and contribute to overall well-being. These are the factors that can either mitigate or aggravate our response to stress. These include personality, coping skills, social support, overall health, and severity of stressor. This can help determine why some people tend to be more adversely affected by the same stressor compared to others. So this can explain why some individuals appear to be able to handle stressful situations much better than others. So that means simply that there are other factors to consider aside from just the presence of the stressor. So let us now look at some ways we can achieve wellness. It is first important to identify the individual who is stressed. It would be great if we can identify and modify the stressor. And finally, if we cannot, then we can learn to cope with or adjust to it. There are specific ways of coping with stress. One is to develop a greater sense of self awareness or introspection of our response to life events. So that means we need to understand first that we are experiencing stress or that we are not feeling well. And then subsequently, that will help us go on to the path of developing better coping skills through self improvement. From a clinical perspective, these are specific techniques that can be applied. I'm just mentioning that these have a role. For example, counseling and psychotherapy that would include both individual and group counseling, the use of medications, psychotropics, for example, for anxiety, depression, or insomnia, and of course, medical treatment, for example, with body reactions such as ulcers and hypertension. Very helpful, of course, are behavioral strategies, which include progressive muscle relaxation, biofeedback, a positive attitude, deep breathing, acting as if, visual imagery. Then finally, the last three I feel are very integral, includes meditation, yoga, and mindfulness. Later on, I hope to share with you a brief autogenic session that I often recommend to patients, family, and friends to help them out during a very distressing period of time. Generally, this would include a combination of visual imagery, deep breathing, and some degree of progressive muscle relaxation. Watch out for that later on. Then, of course, there are hobbies activities as well that can help us. For example, this can also serve as distractors that can minimize the negative impact or the adverse impact of stressors. So including sports, gardening, so plantitos and plantitas, okay, music, singing, watching movies, and television. The last two, in terms of physical well-being and spirituality, of course, will be discussed by the other speakers. But suffice to say that these are also included when we talk about achieving mental wellness. Okay. I'd like to end with a couple of quotes. The first one is, "Sorrow that is not given vent in tears makes the body weep." For those of us who have learned psychosomatic medicine, this is something that is often said. So that means simply that we need to allow ourselves to be able to open up, okay, and not keep within ourselves all the stressful emotions and experiences that we are going through. Okay. And then finally, mens sana and corpore sano. This is our mental hygiene mantra. It simply means a healthy mind in a healthy body. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your kind attention. And at this point, I'd like to play the autogenic session. And what I'd like you to do is to be seated comfortably with your hands on your thighs, or if it's feasible, you may also lie down.
Lean back and make yourself comfortable. Put your hands on your thighs and now close your eyes. Listen only to my voice and the music. Focus on what I say and follow what I tell you to do. Now think of a place that you love, a place that is serene, quiet, comfortable, a place that makes you feel relaxed. It could be on the beach, on a mountaintop, even your own bedroom. Now imagine yourself in this place. Imagine yourself in this wonderful, beautiful place. Relaxing, chilling. You feel so good, calm, relaxed. And while you're imagining yourself in this place, let us focus on your breathing. Take slow, deep breaths. Breathe in through your mouth and breathe out through your nose. Breathe in deeply, then breathe out. Breathe in, 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 breathe out. You may open your eyes now. You may stand up and raise your arms to stretch. Now put your arms down. The session is over. Thank you.